going to use our number lines to help us with something called frames and arrows. So when you see a frames and arrows paper, you'll see something that might look like this. And on these papers, you'll see that there's a rule, much like we had when we were working on our number line. You'll see the frames, and this is where we put our numbers, and then the arrows, and that can show the relationship, what's happening between the numbers. So I'm going to put some numbers in our frames. Say I put the number 3 and 6 and 9, and I'm going to write that the rule is add 3. So one way that you can figure out what the missing numbers are, remember I told you, I think in the last video, that when we use frames and arrows, there's always going to be some information that's missing that we have to figure out and use some math to find out what the missing parts are. So one thing that's missing might be some of the numbers in the frames. So if the rule says add 3, I know that I have to add 3 to each number to find out what goes in the next box. So 3 plus 3 we know is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. And now, how do I figure out 9 plus 3? I'm sure you've learned some strategies in your math class to figure that out. One thing that you can do is use your number line. So if I'm at 9, I can add 3, 1, 2, 3, and I land at 12. So 12 goes in my frame. I can add 3 to 12, 1, 2, 3, to find out that 15 is the next missing number. And then add 3, 1, 2, 3, and 18 is my final missing number. So one frame might look like that. Another frame might have a rule. Let's say this time the rule is add 2, and it might have a number like 4 here, 8, and 10. So you have to figure out some of these missing numbers. All right, so I know that if I'm at 4 here in this frame, my rule is add 2. To figure out what the number is in the next frame, I have to add 2 to 4. I can use my number line, 4, 5, 6. When I add 2, that number is 6. And I know if I add 2, 1, 2, I get 8. Life is already there. 1, 2, add 2 to 8, I have 10. Let's see if you can use my number line and figure out what the next number would be. Say it at the computer. All right, 11, 12, were you right? And then our last number, 1, 2, in our pattern is 14. I've mentioned growing patterns and shrinking patterns, and you can see that this pattern, I call it a growing pattern because the numbers, the value of the numbers are growing each time. All right, let's look at a shrinking pattern. We're going to subtract this time. We're going to subtract 2. I can use my number line again. I'm going to put the number 20 here. And we're going to use our number line to help us subtract 20. I'm going to put a couple of other numbers in. All right, so let's figure out the missing numbers that go in those frames. So if we're at 20, we'll start here. Our rule is subtract 2. So this time we're going to go back on our number line. 18. Start at 18 and hop back 2 spaces. We land at 16, and then you can write subtract 2 here if you like to help you remember. 16 subtract 2 is 14. 14 subtract 2 is 12. And the last one, 12 subtract 2 is, call it out, it's 10. All right, let's do one more together, and then you're going to try some on your own. right, I'm going to make the next rule, add 3. And I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to put a 6 here and a 9 there. So this is a little bit different because you can see that I didn't put the number that we start the pattern with. So how do we figure out, well, what we're trying to decide is what number do we add 3 and get 6? So let's use our number line. One way we can do that is we can start at 6 and we can actually hop back 3 spaces, and that should show us the number that we start with. So let's try that. 6, 1, 2, 3. Now, even though the rule said add 3, we're trying to figure out the number that came before, the one that we added 3 to get 6. So let's see if that works. I hopped back 3 and landed at 3. So I started at 6, hopped back 3, landed at 3. Now, when we add 3 plus 3, do we get 6? Yes. 3, 1, 2, 3, and we get 6. That's often confusing for kids when the first frame is missing. So that's a trick to figure out how to find that missing number. So we're going to add 3 to 6. 1, 2, 3. Get 9, like the number that's already here. Add 3 to 9. 1, 2, 3. 12 is the next missing number. Add 3 to 12. 1, 2, 3. 15, and our last missing number in our frames and arrows would be 18. So you're going to try some on your own now with the frames and arrows framework. You can use your number line to help you. You can also, if you can do these addition problems in your head or draw a picture or count on, whatever strategy you're using, go ahead and use that strategy. Always go back though and double check and make sure that when you add 3 plus 3, the answer is 6. When you add 6 plus 3, the answer is 9. Go back and double check and make sure that you worked carefully and have the right answers. All right, good luck with this. I'm sure you're going to do a great job.